Greetings, everybody. It is the extraordinarily ordinary gaming squirrel Silver Thunder coming back at you with another episode of Monster Hunter World Bow Gameplay Master Rank. This time we're going to be palling around a little bit in the Guiding Lands, and we're going to be hunting ourselves a Tigrex or Tigrex or, potato, whichever camp that you fall into. Either way, a very fun monster. I really like his primal energy that he has. Not necessarily as strong as the Elder Dragons, like the Teostra that we hunted last episode, but still a really fun and engaging fight. And plus, the music is a bop, I must say. So, while we have that one playing, and how we have whenever we're noticing this fight, you can make the comments on my skill if you'd like. Offer any feedback or criticisms, just throw them up in the comment section below. But today, whilst that is going on, I have another interesting topic of discussion for us today, and that is the notion of let's talk about how algorithms, be it YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, whatever social media platform have you, how they go about shaping our personalities. We talked a lot last time about the internet being a replacement for a community. And honestly, I think the internet has been a big subject for this channel. That just happens to be what the discussions, the list that I have here, seem to be the most interesting subjects to speak about. So it's interesting pondering just how much of an effect it has had on us as a society, squirrel society, human society. And it's pretty crazy how impactful that it is. It really has changed the landscape of our technology and our communication and things like that forever. And with the advent of social media platforms, such as, the YouTube star, the Facebook influencer, Instagram influencer, TikTok, things like that, it is really interesting to see how people have found careers in that and have found ways to monetize the work, and in turn how these platforms have found ways to make profits off of that themselves. Don't let yourself be fooled that any company is going to have any of your best intentions at heart. Any company is formed to make money, first and foremost. That is my marketing degree coming into play there. But it's true, these entities would not exist if not necessarily. It's not like that, YouTube is a charity or a non-profit or something like that. They exist to make money. Google exists to make money. And so the algorithm is a way that fan is flamed, so to speak. So it's interesting when it comes to the algorithms, just kind of framing the discussion there for a second. Algorithms are meant to cater the content that we intake on YouTube, on Facebook, things like that. It actively, I don't know if studies might be the right word, but it actively takes note of the things that we are gravitating towards. I think even on Facebook, possibly the things that you linger on and look at, and the comment sections that you go into or comment on and things like that. Just gauging your interest and interaction with certain things. And, for some of the more conspiracy-minded among us, perhaps myself, definitely seems like that maybe it's even taking the information through your microphone, because you'll be talking about one thing, I need tent pegs today, and then boom, you get 5 ads for tent pegs on Facebook. But it's just a very well-catered and crafted machine to, at the end of the day, advertise to you. That's what the algorithm really does, is that it's advertising you the products or work of other creators. Ooh, satisfying wallbang on that one. This was a good fight. I really enjoyed fighting this Tigrex or Tigrex. But so when it comes to specifically how algorithms shape our personality, not just, well, it's kind of a similar concept to, you are what you eat. Or you are very much like the ones that you hang out with. Good company corrupts bad company corrupts good morals. And I think that concept carries over to the algorithm. The more that you quote-unquote feed it with what you want, the more it really pushes back and feeds you what you are wanting to see based on what you're interacting with. Be it whatever side of the political spectrum you might be. Even things within like religious circles, what kind of denomination you would be, what kind of theologies you ascribe to. You'll see more of that catered content as you interact more with it. And it becomes, when you hear those voices from the algorithm saying these same things and listening and intaking more, then, as human beings, it's and squirrels too. I guess I'll speak for the squirrels on here. We're a little bit different, but human beings are very much psychologically influenced. You cannot escape it. It's a psychological inevitability to be influenced by the things that you're hearing day in and day out, and especially where we have access to those kind of things with our smartphones. It's like a never-ending content faucet for the algorithm to drip feed into us. So it really influences our personalities and our views, whether we want to say it does or not. It's a positive feedback loop. You keep putting into it, it keeps putting back, and it just keeps on spiraling and spiraling and spiraling without really a tangible destination. I've seen that impact on me. I've seen that impact on my friends. I've seen that impact on my human avatar. It's pretty crazy whenever you think about it, The distillation of information is just so much more potent than what it ever has been in history. You have quicker access to so many different things at all times. It's honestly, I think it's a bit of overload. That's just my take on it, but I think it's overload. I don't think we're really, as individuals, supposed to have this much information, literally the weight of the world on our shoulders at any given time. So, yeah, that's interesting. With algorithms being a positive feedback loop, I would say it could be a good thing. I kind of struggle to find the objective good in these algorithms. It can steer you in the right direction if you're focusing on what the correct and good things are. But more often than not, it'll funnel you more into an echo chamber that you're already kind of digging yourself into. It's kind of like confirmation bias on steroids, I guess, You'll see just more of the things that tend to align with your position. Or, if you're thinking about changing your views on a certain things, that it's going to definitely skew you into one direction or another, depending on what sources you're intaking. Yeah, you just got to be mindful. It can really fundamentally change how things are when it comes to your personality and what your views are. Talking about distillation of information, this similar effect, I think, was more prominent with, the major news outlets, which I'm not going to name them. That way I won't get copyright struck out of my tree and into the ground and things like that. But you know who they are. The big wigs of the news world. They were the ones who were the big prominent distillation factors in this process before the advent of social media. Because each news station, I really don't think that there is such a thing as any unbiased news. That's me going against my marketing and journalism degree. Every single news station, every single for-profit entity, keep in mind, anytime that you are for-profit, a company is made to make money. Even news companies, even your local news has to pay the bills. And in order to pay the bills, they have to cater their stories to the audience. You're not necessarily going to see the same stuff at same news in a small town, in the middle of Tennessee or West Virginia or something like that, than you would in a large city in New York City. Just because the audiences are completely different, and even those kind of things, that content access, content intake, it shapes people's views and personalities. That's just how it goes. I mean, the Forest Herald I could think of, down to my local paper, they are not necessarily unbiased themselves. They're not worried about the redwoods that's going on all the way over in California. They're worried about, my local area. they're worried about the things that are going on there. So take that effect and then really condense it into everybody pretty much has their own little personal news station on their phone and through their social media platforms. And, you know, whenever it's just you and your phone, there's not really a third party, I guess, to help regulate that, unless if you are really, really careful and really, really selective about what you interact with on these platforms. So, yeah, and you know, as I said, this is not me speaking as a perfect squirrel. You know, I am just as susceptible to it as the average human being. Believe me. It's kind of sobering stuff whenever you think about these things that have these innocuous effects on us, but they really, really get their claws in deep. So, as we're kind of getting closer to the end of the hunt here, this Tigrex still has some fight left in him. Crazy dude. Love him. So, when it comes to the algorithm, though, you know, I've been spending this time kind of not trying to totally disparage it, but really recognize it for what it is, and it could be a bad, bad, bad influence. Is it a necessary evil? You know, these algorithms are the primary way that social media outlets like YouTube and Facebook really help drive their numbers, you know, make them, help them to be successful enterprises. Is because the more the interaction that comes the way, the more of a chance that someone is going to buy a particular product, watch a particular creator, and, you know, perhaps even pay for, like, the premium services that these platforms offer. It's just, you know, statistically, you're just more likely to purchase or engage something that you've spent a lot of time with. So, as I said, everybody has the need to put bread on the table. You know, me, I have the need to store up my acorns for the winter. You know, got to put in the work to do that. Is it a necessary evil for these platforms to function? And my personal opinion on the matter is, well, yes, in a limited capacity, yes, I would say so. Like, the social media platforms are created to be interacted with, and the algorithm is probably the best way that it can generate that interaction. But I think that also kind of begs the question of social media being a necessary evil at all. And, you know, depending on the day of the week that you ask me about it, I may or may not. I might say, you know, yeah, I'm enjoying enjoy social media. Can't really see my life without it because I'm on it every single day. But then there are other days where I'm just like, delete it all, so that way I can just focus on surviving and, you know, making these videos and just go for it from there. But whether you like it or not, these things are facts of life nowadays. And I think in order to, I don't want to necessarily say improve, but in order to really move forward as individuals, we really have to recognize how these things can affect us. And that's for the good and the bad. We are not invulnerable to influence. We are not unsusceptible to being steered one way or another. And I think we could all use a lot more introspection and a lot more, for me, you know, especially prayer, more than anything else as we navigate these things. But let me know what you think. Let me know if you completely disagree with me. Let me know if, you know, I'm full of it. Just throw up a comment below, and I'm interested to hear your takes on this. On the algorithm and everything that's involved with it. The good, the bad, the ugly, and everything in between. Well, this hunt is just about to come to a close. Here we will go ahead and just watch this Tigrex go down. It's interesting, I always kind of tend to choke a little bit at the end of a hunt. I just feel the pressure a little bit more. So you could probably see my gameplay is getting a little bit more sloppy as we're trying to take this wonderful beastie down. Once again, such an enjoyable ride, such an enjoyable hunt. I love Monster Hunter. These games are just so wonderful. And yeah, also, let me know, my main is the bow. in Monster Hunter, as you can see, and as you can see with my portrait. It's the weapon that I prefer to use in all the games. What's your main weapon? And why does mine suck? Feel free to roast the bow users and the gun lance users, all two of them out there in the audience. And there we go. Taken down, one Tigrex, served hot. Definitely hot, because it's kind of like the Elder's Recess area. But I want to thank you so much for tuning on in. This has been Silver Thunder, Extraordinarily Ordinary Gaming Squirrel. I hope you enjoyed the discussion, and we will catch you on the next one. Take care, everybody.